Council meeting for October 15th, 2024, and we will call today's meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Here.
Councilmember Voigt?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Here.
Mayor Finn?
Here, thank you. And do we have any upcoming requests for excused absences? Okay, seeing none. All right, we will officially open our meeting with an invocation by Pastor Pennick, and then immediately following that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Laura.
Let us pray. Most gracious God and Heavenly Father, we want to thank you first for our mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, our council members, and all the city government workers in this wonderful city of Beaumont. We pray, Father, that in tonight's meeting you would pour out your wisdom, your foresight, your patience, your grace upon each and every person in this room, that the business will go forward and our city will continue to prosper. We ask these blessings with thanksgiving in the name of Jesus, Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge to our nation's flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Any conflicts of interest disclosures this evening? Okay. All right, and I'd like to share a proclamation with you this evening. This is regarding the Catholic Daughters of the Americas. Whereas the Catholic Daughters of the Americas was instituted as an organization in 1903 for women with the purpose of growing in spirituality and working in faithful service and love for God. And whereas since its beginning, the Catholic Daughters have consistently and unselfishly used their God-given talents and time to work for the quality of life and defense of humanity. And whereas Catholic Daughters have worked for social justice and show compassion for those in parishes, community, nation, and world who are vulnerable, homeless, voiceless, and most in need. And whereas Catholic Daughters participate in the March for Life, pray for work effortlessly to defend the right to life at all stages from conception to natural death as designed by God's creation. And whereas Sunday, October 20th, 2024, has been designated by the National Board of the Catholic Daughters of the Americas as Catholic Daughter Sunday. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Sunday, October 20th, 2024, as Catholic Daughters of the Americas Day. Thank you. All right. Okay, then on to public comments. And do we have any public comments for any items that are not on tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir. I have a written comment from Anitha Liu.
And ma'am, you have 3 minutes. Well, come on up, and then you have 3 minutes. Make sure the little green light is on there. There you go.
Okay, good afternoon, City Council and residents. My name is Anitha Liu. I live in the city of Indio. For 5 years, we have been in the Eastern Coachella Valley working alongside the South Coast Air Quality Management District as residents, community-based organizations, of which I'm a part. My nonprofit is EcoVista 360. So we've been working down there for 5 years to try and improve air quality. We have similar issues to here, which is ozone and particulate matter, other issues that exacerbate that, such as illegal dumping and the desert winds. So the South Coast and California Air Resources Board in Sacramento, which sponsors the program, is now at the point where they have said to us as community members, we're going to give grants if you want to go ahead and expand the program beyond the regions that we have defined, because they simply weren't able to cover all areas. And their focus is on environmental justice, areas that have both high air quality impacts and poor resources. And so they said, well, you can continue to expand what we've begun. I don't know what will be the eventual result of their program, but one of the areas that they've defined is in Beaumont. And you know, regionally within the Inland Empire, we have the unique distinction of having the worst air quality in the entire United States for particulate matter and ozone. I, like a number of members in this community, abut I-10, the NOx and VOCs come in from Los Angeles, get trapped in the pass, the trucks exacerbate that, and it goes downwind I-10, and we have our own particulate matter and ozone issues. Can't hardly see our brown mountains most days of the week that you look out of your window. We know how that goes. So we're working to improve that, and my request here this afternoon, my background, I'm an engineer with decades, I won't say how many, of experience in environmental engineering. So I thought to bring that experience to bear to help with this situation that I live in, a lot of us live in. Well, we all live in it here. We're in the Inland Empire. So my purpose here today is just to reach out, connect, see if there's an interest from the city of Beaumont, and see how I can speak with to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Do we have any others, Nicole?
Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, thank you. So on to item D, consent calendar. Do we have any items to be pulled? Or if not, I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to approve D1 through D3.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. On to item E, our youth council report. We'll turn over to Mr. Martinez, and then we have some youth here to give a report.
Yes, we do. Come on up and, if you would, introduce yourselves and let's hear what happened.
Good afternoon, Honorable Beaumont City Council members. My name is Candice Lamon.
My name is Chris Valero.
We are gathered here today to disclose what recently occurred in the latest Youth Council meeting on Tuesday, October 8th.
The first and main item was performed on the agenda was the election of our new executive seats on the Youth Council on Article C2, which saw the newly appointed Director Carlos Luna, Assistant Director Ileana Calderon, Secretary Member Ira, Philanthropic Chair and Event Coordinator Kate Landeros and Petra Rathfelder, Economic Development Committee Member Daylin Brown, and Parks and Recreation Committee Member myself, Chris Valero. It was very interesting to see how the council elections take place and the amount of time it requires to move forward with new leaders.
Following Article C2, we moved on to C3, with the guest speaker being our Honorable Mayor, Mr. Mike Finn, who gave us the insights of being the mayor of Beaumont, as well as how the city council operates, how our local government works, and his passion for his job.
Lastly, we had taken a vote to push back Article D of our agenda, which was the establishment of our official goals and objectives as council for the year, due to time constraints during the election of our executive seats. The notion passed unanimously.
We thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate the report. Appreciate it. And
Well-
it was nice to be there and see all the youth involved, and it took a little while to choose, and but they were very, very articulate in their presentations, and I was quite impressed. And so, great job.
All right, thank you.
Anything else to add, sir?
That is all, thank you.
All right, thank you. So on to our public hearing, item F1. It's a public hearing and consideration of a resolution for the Second Amendment to the city's fiscal year 2025 to 2029 capital improvement plan. We'll have a staff report by Mr. Robert Vestal.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the proposed amendment number 2 to this fiscal year CIP. As like before, it's divided into new projects, budget adjustments, and closed projects. For new projects, staff is proposing 5. One is from a grant, a streetlight energy efficient upgrade, where we will replace some remaining HPS lights with LED. 3 of them will be future traffic signal installations. In the staff report, we have suggested locations, but they will be followed up by appropriate studies in the future. And then we have a citywide traffic signal system upgrade, which is where we implement some smart technology. This is focusing mainly on Highland Springs, but it'll be citywide traffic signal, but we're trying to obtain that last 10 to 20% in efficiency, kind of thinking outside the box using AI technology. Those are all future program. None of those are in this current fiscal year. Moving to budget changes, we have several projects that are, staff is requesting budget changes. There are several listed as general fund changes, but only one of them will be impacted by this fiscal year's general fund, and that is the new police station. We're requesting $3.8 million to cover the purchase of the property that was previously discussed. There are 3 other general fund items listed there. However, they're shifting from one project to another, and we're also closing the police station construction project and combining that with the design project for one project. That'll be the new police station. It's easier to manage from a staffing level. So just shifting funds in that regard. The Pennsylvania Avenue grade separation project received $5 million from SB 125 that was discussed earlier this year. And then also Second Street Extension received $1 million from SPF CDS, the Community Block Grant. I already mentioned the closed project. Unfortunately, it's not the great kind of closed project. We're just closing it to combine it with another project. But we do have several closed projects in the queue for our next amendment. And then kind of new to this amendment is some projects that are just being renamed more appropriately. We are renaming 6th Street medians to citywide street medians. We plan to visit a lot of the other medians throughout the city, not just on 6th Street. And then also 3rd Street to California Avenue Storm Drain. We are renaming it California Avenue Storm Drain Replacement. The reason why that one is important, it is staff is performing the work, and it's important for staff to clearly identify when it is replacement, rehabilitation versus a new facility. We have to abide by different rules when it's a new facility. So we're just making sure that that's clear publicly and internally. So with that concludes my presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
All right, thank you. We will open the public hearing at 6:14. And do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 6:14, and we'll turn the time over to council for questions. Mr. White.
Yes, I have some questions. I want a better understanding of the breakdown of the police station, since it's on here. Let me get back to that. So the 1 million is coming from the one of the accounts you're closing, right? the PS09 general fund?
That is correct.
Okay. And then the other is money that we've already budgeted for this, the 3.865?
I don't think it was budgeted, but it was discussed earlier for the procurement of that property.
Okay. The 3.865?
That's correct.
And that's coming from that general fund, okay. And so what's the total cost of I think you made a comment here about it being part of the funds to purchase the property? Is that what the total amount is? Can you sort of break down what we have so far and what we need? And you know me, I want a time frame idea. Just,
Yeah.
you can be very vague on the time frame, but,
Sure.
okay.
Let me navigate to the accounting spreadsheet.
I think it's on page 73 of the packet.
Oh, it's on, okay.
I think he's trying to get to the breakdown of what's in there. It'll say PS-07. I don't know if that's what you're
I think
looking
it's page
for.
73.
In the agenda packet.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper than what's in
okay.
the agenda packet.
Never mind.
So currently, without these budget changes, we
Okay.
have 3.6 million for design.
Okay,
We are adding 1 million from the construction phase into this project, and then we are also adding the 3.8 million proposed there. Only the 3.8 is used to procure the land.
okay, and that 3.8 is coming from,
I think it was
that
reserve,
wasn't the SB one, right?
fund reserve, or fund balance? Yes, I'm hearing yes. Yeah, fund
So are we
balance.
moving the 1 million from construction to help cover the design?
No,
Okay,
no. It'll be used for construction.
okay,
It's just easier to manage in one project than multiple projects.
got it, okay.
Time. So we are in the process. Obviously, we have to wait till we are solid on the land.
Okay, true.
We are negotiating with LPA right now to start. Chief has already invested quite a significant time in the structure of the police station, like the blocks. And what we need to do when it was,
That was gonna be my next question. We did some design work
Yeah.
already for where we thought we were going to have it, correct?
exactly. So
Okay.
we're using the bones of that facility and reconfiguring it for the new location.
Okay,
So we're negotiating with LPA, which is our architecture firm, to kind of redesign the conceptual layout for the building and the site plan, parking, and really utilizing that new property. That will probably take up to a year, just
Okay.
depending on LPA and chief and public works and other city staff commitment to it. After that, there really has to be a conversation, and I don't have the answer right now, on how we want to move forward with that. If it's going to be a private-public partnership that takes a completely separate path to design and construct than it would on conventional, where we have the funds. We engage an architect, and then we engage a contractor. So unfortunately, I really don't have a time frame or
so do you have any idea, right now, the numbers look like 8 million, but what's the gap? What are we gonna need to, I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah, $50 million.
50 million,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mayor Pro Tem Laura.
Thank you, Mayor. I really like the way to use the bones of the building as, tribute to Halloween. And then the 50 million was scary, so. The streetlights, the improvements that I've seen with the signal lights, have been great. So I thank you for that, and I look forward to having more signal lights installed, smart ones as well. And I know that these are just suggestions. Fifth in California doesn't seem like a really busy intersection, maybe First in California, but obviously you're still looking at that. So I just wanted to point that out, maybe take a look at that one. Oak Valley and Palm, maybe. You've got something going there already. That was all I have. I just appreciate the effort that you're putting into signal lights.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to comment on that if I
Sure.
may. Staff added a CIP project to this fiscal year for Oak Valley Parkway and Palm. So that's already underway with design. It was based on a 2-year funding source, so we got roughly 300,000 this fiscal year. That'll take us way past design and some into construction. And then next year, we'll receive another 300, proposed 300,000, and that will take us to complete construction. So
excellent.
Design will be done into this fiscal year, and then construction will commence immediately after that. With respect to California and First, I absolutely agree. I think California Fifth was an initial placeholder.
Okay.
But California and First is a better location.
Okay. All right, looking forward to that. Thanks again, Robert. I appreciate that. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Quick question, Robert, on the citywide street median, your R21. Is there a plan there, or is it just we have to get to that? The reason I ask is I've been getting a few residents talk about the medians at the end of Oak Valley by San Timoteo. And I checked it out the other day, and they're bad, really bad. So I know they're on the radar, and I know we had talked to Elizabeth about this in the past, but I wanted to know so I can let the public know. Is there a plan, or is there still evaluation that needs to be done so we know where to prioritize? Or
We intend to engage an architect to give us some conceptual designs, much like we did for 6th Street. We also talked to them about adding not just the west end Oak Valley, because there's 10 medians there.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
But the Oak Valley medians between Cherry and Highland Springs that have grass and
Okay.
are
More of a hardscape, I think, is what we had talked about last
correct.
time.
We're looking at drought tolerant, drought resistant, and low maintenance medians to keep our guys out of the center dividers.
Good. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I've got a question, Robert. Did we have it on another project for a traffic light improvement at Beaumont Avenue and Cougar Way?
We do, so
And that was one of the protected lefts, right?
that is
Okay.
correct. As of today, a interim condition, protected permissive left turn, similar or exactly like 6 and Beaumont, is being installed on Cougar and Beaumont. It's interim because on Brookside and Beaumont Avenue, there is a yield on yellow mechanism, and staff obviously, based on council's direction and city manager's direction, saw the need to put a protected permissive left turn. But with current funding at the time, we went with something that we knew and could be implemented almost immediately, 6 months immediately. We are concurrently designing that intersection for the exact same setup as Brookside, just to maintain continuity for the high school parents and other traffic. So there's not a difference. However, we did want the interim condition to immediately provide that protected left-hand turning movement.
Okay, appreciate that. And then having visited Altus, it was brought to my attention in a request with some of the stop sign intersections. Could we look into and assess the need for any flashing light stop signs? And just, it was brought up, with, it would help them and, and so forth, especially at night, and so forth. And so I don't want to dictate as to where they were going to go or anything like that, but just if that can be looked at the same time with the traffic signals and so forth. and just in and around, maybe not just Altus, but in and around our three large, senior neighborhoods, that might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to caution, though, that the flashing, two things. I just want to make sure I'm transparent and clear. Having a flashing stop sign in a residential community is problematic for the annoyance of the lights.
Understood, yeah.
Also, there's a balance that staff has to have in saturating the streets with flashing. It'll desensitize people to the effect of having a flashing stop sign. That's not to say that it's not a good case for the situations that you're saying. I just want to make it sure.
Yeah, and it's more along
clear.
the Highland Springs corridor there that was brought to my
and we use
attention.
them strategically to really bring drivers' attention to where it's low visibility. There are other problematic conditions at that intersection beyond just people not obeying, the stopping.
Okay, good point. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
When is our next planned traffic study?
By traffic study, are you referring to the pavement management?
No, the one where we come back and tell us where we put stop signs, where we have to increase or slow down our traffic speeds. I think we do it on
Oh, it
like
is
every 5 years, every 8 years.
a speed survey.
Yes.
Yeah, we are due for that. I've started discussing it with Chief on how we want to move that forward, but yes,
Okay.
we're due.
Because we learned that you have to have that study to make changes that are going to change traffic patterns.
Yeah, the speed surveys drive the speed that you can post.
Right. Okay. Mayor, I move to waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont amending the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 25 through 29 and approve the attachment E budget amendments.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. So on to item G1, or the first action item, that's G1 is the approval of acquisition agreement for Community Facilities District Number 93-1, Improvement Area 17D, and authorizing the issuance of its special tax bond series 2024. And we have our staff report by Jennifer Eustace.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. What we have for you is the approval of acquisition agreement and issuance of bonds, and this is for CFD 93-1, Improvement Area 17D. We have the city's financing team here this evening. I'm going to pass it over to Michael Bush from UFI, who has a presentation ready for you this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It is always a pleasure to be before you. I'm going to cover the first part of the presentation, and then following me will be Mr. Forbath and then Mr. Jacob. I'm going to do two things tonight. First, what a few of you will note, this is the same format that we've always used to present to the council. We're going to talk a little bit of history tonight, too. As the few members can recall, and maybe some of the other newer council members, it's been a decade now since I've been coming before you to talk about CFDs. So we're going to talk about what coming full circle has looked like as part of this presentation. When we were first engaged as a group, and this basically is the group that you engaged for the most part initially, transparency was the big issue. And so as you'll see in tonight's presentation, we provide as much transparency as we possibly can, all the way down to what was approved when the CFD was formed, what the fees will be, et cetera. And when we first were engaged, that information was not provided to the public. So we continue with that practice. As you'll note, we're going to cover 3 sections here. It's the overview, which I will cover. The SEC compliance and some of the specifics related to that, Mr. Forbath will cover as your counsel. Mr. Jacob will cover the details of the financing. And Mr. Spicer is also here if we have any questions regarding any special tax issues. A little bit about the overview. We are referring to specifically, as Jennifer stated, improvement area 17D. This is one of the few 93-1 deals that we've looked at. It's been a while since we've talked about a 93-1 deal. This was formed in basically the middle of 2015. It is the final subdivision of Tournament Hills, the master plan community of about 268 units developed by TriPoint. Your projects, like many within the county, are moving along very quickly. Houses are selling very rapidly, and they certainly have picked up speed in the last few months. When we initially looked at the appraisal of the site, 202 of the 268 units were completed and conveyed to property owners. There were 63 under construction and 2 finished lots. Roughly a few months later, 27 closings in addition to that had occurred. And we expect from TriPoint's building and their strategy going forward that most of the homes will be sold to homeowners and be in their ownership by the second quarter of 2025. A little bit of the financing overview. When these CFDs were formed about a decade ago, many of them had really high par amounts. They were just random numbers at, roughly 25,000 was the number that they kind of signed to all of them. Does not mean we're going to issue $25,000 or 25 million of bonds. In this case, it's 9 points, so well below the threshold. The only additional bonds that would be issued would be parity. They would be for refunding purposes only. So we won't go past the 9.4 million and add new debt to this specific development. It's built with a traditional 110 coverage that allows for city staff and your tax consultant to work with your trustee if there's any delinquency, so you have cash on hand to deal with that. Hasn't been an issue in Beaumont in a long time. I'm hopeful that that remains the case. I know council members on the dais won't appreciate this, but this one does have the 2% escalator because it is an old transaction that was formed with it in there. It is one of the last remaining 93-1 new issuance with an escalator. I think you have one other transaction that may be coming as a second tranche, but this one's pretty close to the end. Similar to other transactions, this is financing public improvements that the city will own, storm drain, sewer, and other improvements. And Mr. Jacob will go through some of the bond specifics later in the transaction. Here's a little bit of the history that I want to provide before I turn it over to Mr. Forbath that I think the council and the community will appreciate. The 10 years of working through the CFD program presents some interesting opportunities, and one I think the council will be looking forward to in the next few months. If a few of you may be aware, we placed several CFDs 10 years ago in private placement banks, $100 million worth roughly of CFDs. Those CFDs are now subject to refunding. So we've come that full circle all the way around. So there's a total of 17 CFDs that we're looking at with a par amount of $120 million, of which, as of now, 83 million are showing savings exceeding 3%. So we'll be back to you before the end of the fiscal year to talk specifically about those. In doing so, we're hopeful that we can remove the Beaumont Financing Authority, the BFA, out of those deals, so there'll be no more BFA. Most of them, roughly 10, are CFD 93-1, and there are a few that are from 2016. There's 3 of them. So 4 BFA, 10 93-1, and 3 from 2016-1, 2, and 4. In addition to that, not related to CFDs, but I'll share it with you, about a decade ago, we also did the sewer financing, your wastewater treatment plant. That will be coming back too, hopefully for refinancing and lowering some of the debt coverage there. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know that some of you were on the council and others are aware of how challenging it was a decade ago to do this work. But your due diligence, your exceptional staff work has brought us back to where we are going to come back and start to reduce, the assessment for quite a few people in the community, and I know that's something you've been looking forward to for a while.
Good evening, Mayor Fenn, council members. Brian Forbath, Stradling. Good to see you all this evening. So just another just sort of trip down memory lane about how we got to where we're at here. I know there's always been a question from the council members about, was there an obligation to issue bonds in the development agreement, et cetera. And so history here goes back a little ways. In Pardee Homes, now Tri-Point, and the city entered into development agreements for Sundance and for Tournament Hills back in the day. It's been some time now. Those DAs did require the city to form CFDs to finance facilities and fees. At some point in between 2015 and 2017, disputes had arisen between the city and Pardee about the timely repayment of facilities that were constructed and fees paid by Pardee in connection with the developments there and the sort of untimely reimbursements from bond proceeds. So in order to avoid litigation and resolve those disputes, the city and Pardee entered into a settlement agreement at that time that related to a significant number of improvement areas and CFDs that hadn't been formed or hadn't issued bonds yet. And so that included improvement areas 8, 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 17A, 17B, 17C, and 17D, and also the formation of new CFDs 2016-2 and 16-3 were all part of the settlement agreement. And so that settlement agreement resolved these claims, and this, as Mike Bush mentioned, there's really only 2 bond issues left to be sort of tackled underneath the settlement agreement. That's the 17D that we have here today, and then I think there's a second series of bonds that'll probably come back to you sometime next year for 16-2 will be the sort of final sort of obligations to the city underneath the settlement agreement to Pardee. So these bonds are here to sort of satisfy the obligations underneath the settlement agreement. And then, so just, again, just sort of memory here, back when we first got involved with the city in 2015, the SEC shortly arrived on the scene, and the city entered into a cease and desist agreement, a settlement agreement, a cease and desist order of the SEC. And in connection with that, the city adopted certain prophylactic disclosure policies. And so we've always been very vigilant to make sure that those policies are abided by in connection with every bond issuance. That includes annual staff training that we've always done for the staff. The official statement is reviewed by the financing team. We have a all hands due diligence call or where we do a page turn of the document to make sure everything is true and correct in all material respects. So we've done that in connection with this transaction again. So the items before you this evening is the resolution of the City Council, City of Beaumont, acting on as the legislative body of the CFD, to authorize the issuance of the 2024 bonds, in an amount not to exceed $10.5 million. It approves all the financing documents in connection with that transaction, which includes the preliminary official statement, which we've discussed, the bond indenture, the acquisition agreement, the bond purchase agreement, the continued disclosure certificate, hiring of the financing team, and an acknowledgement of the good faith estimates. And also just authorizes officials to sign and execute those agreements. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Jacobs to talk about the financing structure.
Thank you, Mr. Forbath, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Tom Jacob from Stiefel. So as Mr. Bush mentioned, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the financing statistics with this issue, a very high level. As has been previously mentioned, we expect roughly $9.4 million in par amount to be issued in connection with these bonds. The true interest cost, or rough average borrowing cost over a 30-year period, is about 4.78%. This will be roughly a 30-year transaction, 30-year amortization that goes out to September 1st, 2054. The net special taxes, which will be levied on each one of the 268 parcels, will be serving as security for the principal and interest payments. Those will be structured to provide 110% coverage. Mr. Bush mentioned the potential for delinquency, so that's an added security feature for the bonds. And you can see graphically, visually here, what those annual payments will look like over time, the green bar representing the special taxes providing security for the annual payments. A little bit about the estimated cost of issuance. We provide a breakdown for you here. The financing team is always in line with similarly sized, similar credits of the city's past issues, but also, very competitive from a standpoint of other issues that are currently in the market as well. And so you can see the breakdown provided for each one of these firms. And then last but not least, assuming council approves the issuance this evening, our plan is to post the offering document or prospectus and make it available to prospective investors as soon as tomorrow. And that would put us in a position to price the bonds or set the interest rates on the bonds next week. We're currently looking around midweek next week. And then we would settle or close the bonds roughly 2 weeks later. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know everybody from the financing team is happy to answer questions as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
All right, thank you. And council, questions, comments? All right, I'll go first. So my biggest questions all the time is does anybody know what has been disclosed to the homeowner? So these are new homeowners that have purchased a new home, have a good number of them have moved in already. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's been a large number of closings already, and so statutorily, TriPoint's required to provide disclosure to any homeowner who purchases it as part of their closing papers. I think somebody from TriPoint's even here if you want to ask them personally, but that's required by code. And a notice of special tax lien is recorded on the property, shows up in title reports.
Okay, and do we know if it was disclosed about the escalator?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Right. And then, if this is approved and moves forward, when will this show up on the property owner's tax bill, or is it already there? And if it's not already there, will there be a supplemental tax bill to get caught up?
So it's already there. It's already being levied on any piece of property that has a building permit that was issued as of, I think it was May 1 was the cutoff date. Taxes were levied on that property this year. So that'll come forward on any closed home.
Okay. So as you can see, my train of thought with the questions is no surprises. So
No surprise, yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. On to council, Ms. Voigt.
Yeah, just based off of what we had heard previously, is it typically about a 10-year time frame to look at refinancing?
Yeah, I think that's generally the results. I mean, the bonds are structured with a 10-year call provision that sort of locks out. So if you're an investor, you buy the bonds, you get protection for the first 10 years that we won't take your bonds away. But after 10 years, it's all fair game. If interest rates have improved, then the city will have the opportunity to refund it. And, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I would say most of all bond deals get called after 10 years just based on the shortening of the duration of the debt.
Great. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions or comments, Mr. White?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First of all, is this our last 93-1?
Well, it's the last new money
one?
transaction for
Okay.
93-1, yes.
Okay.
That I'm aware of, unless there's one somewhere in the cracks somewhere that I'm not aware of yet. Yeah.
Does this one have a public safety component of the?
This one does not have a public safety
Okay.
component to it.
And it has the 2% escalator. Was the 2% escalator part of the settlement agreement?
It was, so the 2% escalator was in from the time that the CFD was formed back in 2015. And then the settlement agreement is such as they'll issue bonds in connection with the pursuant to the existing transaction structure.
Okay. I wouldn't be on council if it wasn't for CFDs. And I never wanted to impose a 2% escalator again on anybody, because that's what motivated me to get involved, was people were seeing their monthly payments just climb. Some of us still have the escalators. And So I'm glad to hear that we're, looking at some of those other ones to drop the escalators. But this was 2015, which I had been on council for 4 or 5 months, and I don't think I voted for this one. And I just can't support a 2% increase escalator. I know that we're sort of locked in at this point because those are the numbers that the homeowners are already expecting to pay. And if we change this from a 2% escalator to a flat, I would want to do it only through the approval of the homeowners. And actually, when I came to council as a citizen, not as a council member, I was trying to allow our area to not stop making our payments, not to lower our payments, but to stop the city from accruing any more new debt onto our property, which I got in too late to do that. Like I said, I think I voted against this. Council members realize that sometimes you don't get your vote the way you need it to go. But I think I'm going to be voting against this at this point. I'm not going to put us in a position where we go into a lawsuit over this. So I just want my colleagues to understand that I realize that we as a council should approve this. I personally am not going to be able to vote to support it just because of, I think this is the one that I voted against, and it was a 4-1 vote back at that time. So just wanted to make that statement.
All right, thank you for your comments, sir. Mr. White, I do have a question in reference to that. If this was structured without a 2% escalator, would we expect that the early year payments would be higher and it would be fixed? Because am I correct in that math guesstimate, I'll call it?
So the 2% escalator directly, and maybe Mr. Jacobs can help me on this, but the 2% escalator directly impacts the amount of bonds that can be issued. And so without the escalator, party gets less bond proceeds than what they've been counting on in the transaction.
Okay. And again, back to my earlier question, this has been fully disclosed, and so.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Do we have any other council member questions or comments?
Well, if I may, Mayor, can you explain then what without the escalator, how that works, where they would get less? Does that change the par amount?
Yes,
So does the par amount have to go up in order to make up the difference for that?
No, the bonds are sized based on a revenue stream, and so a flat revenue stream produces a lower bond par amount than a revenue stream that grows over time. And so if without the 2% escalator, it would produce less bond proceeds for a party.
And that's because they're already being levied at a certain.
Correct. If the council said, hey, well, we're going to approve the bond deal, but we're going to have a flat tax on it, what will happen is the taxes escalate each year theoretically on the property, but you only levy the amount of taxes that you're required to pay debt service and administrative taxes on the bonds. So if the bonds are sold with flat debt service, then what ultimately gets levied on property owners is a flat tax, even though what's been disclosed is a much larger tax. That said, just to make sure we're all clear, this is now, I would say, at least the 6th or 7th CFD underneath the settlement agreement that's had an escalator that the council, and I'm not saying everybody on the council has approved this in the past, but it's been approved by other previous councils.
I appreciate that. It just, I understand what Councilmember White's saying. We're trying to have a new vision and a new, I don't want to say theme with the way we're approaching that. But, when you still have these old ones that are kicking around, where they're still under old agreements, it makes it difficult to put your new vision with something that's already old and been settled. So I just want to say for the public, I'm totally against the escalators. I don't believe in them, but we're put in a position where we've already had a settlement or a number that's already been, established. And, I surely wouldn't want to put the city in a legal challenge for it. So I just wanted to say that, because I'll support it, but I don't like it. But we understand why, so thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White, back to you.
Yeah, let me just clear up a couple things. First of all, bottom line is if we switch from a 2% escalator to a flat, we're going to be raising everyone's monthly payments significantly at the start. And that's where I'm concerned about getting ourselves in a position now. I think I asked you if the 2% was part of the settlement agreement as opposed to part of the agreement that we approved in 2015. It couldn't have been.
The 2% was approved by the council in 2015. The settlement agreement says the council's gonna agree to issue bonds.
Okay.
It is a little vague as to whether there's a 2% escalator or not, but I will just remind the council, I think as I stated previously, there's been, if I go back to the slides.
Well, let me
Yeah.
just clear up something. I did vote for some of those.
Yeah.
I did vote for some of
Yeah,
those as
yeah,
part of the
yeah,
settlement
yeah.
agreement. This one, I can't.
Yeah.
Just because of being involved on the first one on this and trying to stop the settlement agreement on that one back then. Not the settlement agreement, the 2%. Actually, I didn't want any CFDs at that point. So anyways, I just want to be clear. I have voted on the ones for settlement that were part of the settlement agreement that had the 2% escalator, and I think I probably raised the same issue at that point. But like I said, just on this one, I can't. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Martinez.
And just for the record, I was not on council in 2015, just for the record.
All right, any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
No, just going to make a motion to go ahead and waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont acting as legislative body of the City of Beaumont Community Facilities District 93-1, authorizing the issuance of its improvement area 17D special tax bond series 2024 in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10,500,000 and approving certain documents and taking certain other actions in connection therewith.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
No.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. So on to item G2, approval of requisition number 2 for reimbursement of bond proceeds in the amount of $8,250,000, and staff report by Jennifer Eustace.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On May 2nd of 2023, the City Council approved acquisition agreement and issuance of special tax bonds for CFD 2016-3, similar to the item that just took place now. On September 18th, this current fiscal year, the Tri-Point submitted a reimbursement request for those bond proceeds in the amount of $8.25 million, and that is to reimburse for some DIF fees that are in relation to the project. That is something that is a part of the settlement agreement that was approved on February 7th, 2017. As part of the city's bond accounting policies, the city staff, when they receive these requests, need to bring them before a city council to allow the city manager to sign the requisition. The requisition is then submitted to the trustee for release of the bond proceeds for reimbursement to the developer. So with that, you have a approval to allow the city manager to sign the requisition, so that way we could send it to the trustee for release of the bond proceeds. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
All right, thank you. Council, questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the city manager to sign requisition number 2 to send to trustee for disbursement of bond proceeds to the City of Beaumont.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. So on to item G3, award a public works agreement to Borden Excavating, Inc. for construction of the Mesa Lift Station Upgrade Project, CIP WW-11. And we have a staff report by Thaxton Van Bell.
Mayor,
Good
may I
evening.
make a question or suggestion?
Sure.
These are all related, correct? All three of the next, can we just do all three of them as one, or do you?
Yes, I
different
was going to
presentation?
request that. I'd prefer that if it's acceptable with council.
Okay, and then just for public knowledge, that is items G3, G4, and G5, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Let's do that.
Okay. This project is an expansion, originally started out for an upgrade and expansion of the Mesa Lift Station and the pipeline. A few years ago, due to funding and prioritization, we split the project and we proceeded forward with the force main project. That project just completed. That consisted of establishing a second force main from the Mesa Lift Station across the 60 and over to 4th Street. What you're seeing on the screen now is an overview of the Mesa Lift Station. It's on Potrero across from Olivewood. So today's project is the upgrades of the lift station. It's important to notice that the Beaumont lift station services starting at Fairway Canyon in yellow to the lower Oak Valley lift station in the blue to the middle Oak Valley in kind of the purple there to the upper Oak in the brown, and includes the Olivewood community and any future gravity above it, like where our fire station is. So that's kind of the background and overview. That lift station is needed to be upgraded for both capacity, efficiency, and pump size, and then a major component of it is to install a expanded emergency capacity wet well. Our sewer survey that we did a couple years ago, in a worst case scenario, listed out a 20-minute response time with all the growth. And you know, as you can see, even from the Google Earth photo we had, Olivewood is sitting there just under construction now. Those are all homes there. So we've got that, the Fairway Canyon, Tournament Hills, all that area goes through Mesa. So we got the first phase finished up with the pipeline, so now we have 2 force mains leaving there. This one will get us the wet well, the upgrades, the new pumps, etc. The other items related to this are in support of the construction, so we have an agreement to award Converse consultants for material testing, etc. While this item is under the city manager's signing authority, collectively the city, through other projects, has exceeded that. So we specifically called it out and brought it for approval. And then the other component is the web engineering support services for the project. Timeline, it's about a 1-year project, so we estimate completion by December of '25. And with that, myself and Kenyon Potter, our engineer, are available for questions.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments on items G3, G4, or G5?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
All right, thank you. Council questions or comments, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended items for G3, G4, and G5.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura?
Yes.
Mayor Finn?
Yes, thank you. So on to item G6, authorize changes to the uniform compensation plan, and staff report by Carrie Mendoza.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have before you some changes to the uniform compensation plan. We've been contacted by a couple employees and a couple unions in regards to a couple classifications that they felt fell behind market. So you have some market equity adjustments after staff did some utilization and some research. The positions that were identified as 10% or greater under market median were the engineering development technician 1, the executive assistant, the procurement and contract specialist, the Public Safety Dispatcher 1 and 2, Senior Engineer and Wastewater Collection Supervisor. The impact for the remainder 8 months of the fiscal year is just under $70,000 to the general fund and $6,000 to the wastewater fund. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any specifics about any of them.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
All right, thank you. Any council questions, Mr. Martinez? Okay. Seeing none others, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the attached uniform compensation plan.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Finn.
Yes, thank you. And on to item G7, participation in the Western Regional Council of Governments Fellowship Program. And that is, we'll have a staff report by Julie Van Hook.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here today to present for your consideration the approval of a partnership between the City and Western Regional Council of Governments, better known as WRCOG, to bring on a communications fellow through their fellowship program and us as their host agency. The partnership is an excellent opportunity for the city to enhance our communication efforts. It's also a great opportunity for any young individual coming into government or communications itself. It's also a cost-effective solution of expanding our capacity here for communications without actually incurring the full financial burden of a full-time staff person. So the fellow will focus on some initiatives such as social media, playing a support role on our website redesign, which is already kicked off, and on some key community engagement projects that align with the strategic priorities of council. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any public comments?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, it's just something simple to point out. It's Western Riverside Council of Governments. So when I read that red regional, I knew that wasn't right and it didn't come out the same. So just clarification there.
Sure.
And it is, for the recommended action, it is listed correct at that point, in that part. So it does say Western Riverside.
Okay, yes.
Any comments or questions from council or a motion? Okay, Ms. Martinez?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. So it looks like this is for one participant.
Yes.
And I didn't see anything in the agreement where it says it's a 2-year agreement. Is that a 2-year agreement?
No, it's a one-year agreement.
It's a 1-year agreement. So when it says for the 50% on the next time, it's a new agreement?
That's right.
New thing,
Yeah.
okay. And as far as it looks like the WRCOG is the one that's the lead agency. So if there's any issues with the employee, they're the ones that deal with that correction.
That's
So
right.
we would just suggest to them what we think and we'd
Yes.
go from there.
Mhm.
Okay. No, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay,
I will move to approve the city's participation in the WRCOG Fellowship Program for fiscal year 24-25 and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary agreements pending legal review with non-substantive changes, pending no other discussion.
I'll second.
all right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Finn.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. And on, on to item G8. The approval of city and attorney invoices for the month of September 2024.
And because this involves my law firm, I'll recuse myself.
Okay, any public comments on the matter?
I have no written requests. Mia, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, thank you. Council, questions, discussion, or motion?
I will move to approve the invoices in the amount of $124,914.57.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura,
Yes.
Mayor Finn.
Yes, thank you. So on to item H, legislative updates and discussion. Ms. Gibbs.
No update tonight.
Oh, okay, thank you. Economic development update?
So Economic Development Committee reviewed the two new incentive programs that were presented at City Council at their last meeting. And then we also rolled out the framework for a business concierge service, where we'll be making some modifications to internal procedures, update to a variety of paperwork and communication elements here to clarify our procedures, to communicate very clearly how people can best work their way through the process. Simplifying points of contact within the city also, so that people don't have to hunt down the right people will hunt them down, basically, to be able to connect needs of the city versus needs of the applicants, ideally to streamline and make the entire process more effective.
All right, very nice. Thank you, Joel. Any questions for Joel? Okay, thank you, sir. So on to item J, treasurer's report. We don't have our treasurer tonight, so city clerk. Okay, and city attorney. All right, thank you. City manager's report.
And I do not either.
All right, we're flying through this, aren't we? All right, we have a list of future agenda items. Do we have any additions to that? Okay, seeing none at this time. On to council reports. Let's go with Mr. White first.
You don't even let me bring up my calendar so I can remember where I went.
All right.
San Jacinto State of City was a good night. And I know there were a couple others, but someone else will mention it. I was there too. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Mayor Pro Tem Laura.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended the WRCOG meeting last week, I think it was. And no, Councilmember White was not in attendance at that meeting. Also attended the RCA. One of the big topics of discussion at the RCA meeting were concerns over the crotchous bumblebee. That is a bumblebee that has been proposed to be put on the extinction list. Has not been accepted by the state yet. However, projects are having to work their way through that maze. In an effort to get out ahead of it, RCA approved a contract with a consultant to begin working with the state, to begin working with the CDFW, to start outlining a plan so that when and if it does happen to make the endangered species list, MSHCP, the RCA will be ahead of the program in helping developers navigate that system. Again, we're still waiting for it to find out whether or not it will be on the endangered species list or not. But MSHCP is trying to get out ahead of this and make sure that they have a plan ready for developers should that come about. And then, as Councilmember Martinez referenced in our last meeting, they don't do the endangered species of the month. However, the reserve of the month was the McElhaney Stimmel Reserve. It's a 365-acre reserve located in the unincorporated area of Riverside County in the south central portion of the plan area. It is east of the I-215 between the cities of Menifee and Murrieta. The reserve features gently rolling terrain. I really love the way that they explain these, because it's like, wow, this is a place I can vacation sometime, but unfortunately I'm not an endangered species, so yeah. The reserve features gently rolling terrain in a variety of habitats, including coastal sage scrub, grassland, riparian scrub, and seasonal pools, but no spas. Several MSHCP covered species have been documented in the reserve, including those shown. They have the gnatcatcher, the northern harrier, burrowing owl, Bell's sage sparrow, as well as others. So just wanted to, again, highlight the McElhaney Stimmel Reserve Area. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Hillhauser.
I was going to say, thank you and well presented. All right, I'll go next. On the 3rd of October, I attended our Transportation Now Committee meeting, and we had a great presentation by our very own Elisa Mendoza talking about our 4th Street station. That'll be a future CNG station with 2 pumps and a hydrogen one as well in the future. Also shared at that meeting was RTA will be providing free rides on Election Day, and that also includes Dial-A-Ride as well. So that'll help get the vote out for everyone. And then, as noted before, as noted previously, I attended the Youth Council meeting, Banning State of the City, San Jacinto State of the City, and then at our Beaumont Chamber breakfast, we had a great presentation on some labor laws by that's a tongue twister, SBEMP, our legal counsel company. So that was very, very well presented and appreciated. So with that, we will go on to Councilmember White.
I have nothing to report.
All right, Ms. Martinez, you can close us out.
All right, thank you, Mayor Mike.
You know, if I can jump in and add to that, I often get called Mike because I have a brother named Mike.
Oh, there you go.
So I learned when I kept hearing Mike's name yelled, I would eventually answer because my parents got it wrong.
Well, see, there you go. And I just want to thank Councilmember Lara for filling in. You did a great job. I don't know if I can overdo that, so.
They did notice the difference, though. I was called Julio several times, so.
They called you. I told them to leave the tag up there, they wouldn't. Youth Council did go well. They had a lot of, they're really, really motivated. So we'll be talking more next month. We might be touring the City Hall and talking about our goals and objectives. So they're really refreshing and motivated. And that's all.
Thank you very much, and we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Wow, this might be a record. 7:11.